Welcome back. It's time for another book talk video. It's Science Fiction Sunday, and I want to talk to you about Frederic Brown's short story from 1944 called Arena. This story was originally published in a magazine. It was the June 1944 issue of Astounding Science Fiction, but I doubt you're going to get a hold of that magazine. So what you should know is that you can get the story in the collection of short stories by Frederic Brown called From These Ashes. It's a big, thick book. It's got a ton of stories in it, and something that I really like about it is they actually put his stories in there based on chronology. The table of contents has each year labeled that he published stories, and then it has the stories from that year underneath it, and the book gives them to you organized that way. It's brilliant, and sometimes I think that really works as a way to organize a collection of short stories. I do recommend From These Ashes, and I specifically recommend the story. You already know something about the story probably because it appears in pop culture all the time, because Arena was the basis for the Star Trek original series episode Arena. They actually credited Frederic Brown with the idea that they used for the episode, though the episode plays out very differently with Captain Kirk fighting the Gorn than how the story plays out with the main character in the story. But something that's really neat about this story is it established a trope in science fiction. And as I say science fiction right now, I realize I should also clarify another detail. When I made my video about Appendix N, I labeled it as a fantasy reading challenge, and I really should have labeled it as a fantasy and science fiction reading challenge, and I knew that back then. I just wasn't really thinking, because the majority of Appendix N is fantasy. But as I pointed out in the introduction video for the YouTube channel here, some of it is also science fiction. Here we go with Frederic Brown's science fiction story, Arena. Alright, this is an interesting story because the premise is that we have an alien race with an armada that is coming to attack our solar system with our Earth armada, and some powerful being interjects and says, we're going to make this a one-on-one battle. Instead of having so many people lose their lives and be decimated on the winning side, because the losing side clearly will be wiped out, but we don't want the winning side hurt so much. It's interesting logic. This powerful being has decided that it will be one man representing Earth and one of these aliens representing all of its people. Clearly in the Star Trek episode, it's the Gorn, the green reptile-looking guy. But in the story, it's a much more interesting alien. A little round cylinder thing that has tentacles that come out of it, and I think it's a really cool-looking alien. This concept was also used for The Outer Limits. They had an episode in 1964 called Fun and Games, and it was used in Marvel Comics, and my goodness, there's a really cool cover and great artwork in The Worlds Unknown where they did Man vs. Monster, and they actually credited it as Arena, a startling thriller from the pen of Frederic Brown. It's really neat that this story was adapted over and over, including a show called Space 1999, though that was from 1976, and also it featured in Starlog Magazine in 1977 with some great art by Boris Vallejo showing the alien creature and the human man from the fight. That might be the most accurate version of the art from the story. But it's a great story, and I highly recommend that you read it. It's the kind of story that would only take you about 30 minutes to read, probably. And it's fun. Frederic Brown established a trope, which is really neat, and you see that kind of thing being used again and again in storytelling, and especially in science fiction. Alright, that's it for today's book talk. I hope I have piqued your interest in another Appendix N author, Frederic Brown, and in this short story that has inspired so many different works and an entire trope in literature. That's it for today's book talk. Every day is a good day for a book talk. Peace.